But Cassius straight up channels that energy of like, I'm obviously a force of good, but I want problems
always.
How's it going, people? Jack here, and today we'll be checking out some more from the Fat Electrician, and this time around it's on Cassius Clay. No, it is not Muhammad Ali, although that used to be his original name until he, a little bit controversial, made the mistake of changing his name. Here may come the booze, and I know I have followed his history. I used to be a big Ali fan, or rather should I say, I am a big Ali fan, but like some of the reasoning that he had for some of his choices were just like, why? But Cassius Clay is not a character that I'm well versed with. I only know of him through the, I think it was the Daniel Day-Lewis movie with Lincoln, where he was supposed to be like either a successor or whatever. So someone taking the position of Lincoln. No, I'm not too sure, okay? As I said, I'm not familiar with the character at all. I just know the name. But being called the most gangster politician there exists, I am intrigued, so without further ado, let's jump into this. Oh!
It's a riveting story. It's really good. Alright, we gotta go.
Oh my god, I also just held my little human in my hands. It's the best feeling ever.
Tell the internet about the guy I named you after, okay? You gotta go hang out with him.
Oh! That's a boss-ass move. Yeah, I don't have a boy, I have a little girl. We couldn't name her Xena, so her mom was not amused by that suggestion.
Today we're talking about the most gangster politician in American history, ladies and gentlemen, Cassius Marcellus Clay, aka the Lion of Whitehall. Whitehall being his family home that he grew up in Kentucky as the son of one of the richest slave owners in all of America. While going to college at Yale to become a lawyer, he would attend a speech from a famous abolitionist by the name of William Lloyd Garrison, and that speech would change the entire trajectory of Cassius Clay's life as well as American history. It is at that moment that Cassius Clay decided he was not only going to be quietly opposed to slavery, but that he was actively going to fight against it. He would be set down the path to become the most influential abolitionist of all time. Oh god, forgot to do the ad. Hold on.
Oh wow. The prospect of a man standing up against what was considered to be normal back then. Not only that, like being the son of a slave owner. Interesting.
Sorry for bothering the video. Real quick, this video is brought to you by the biggest sponsor of the channel and my favorite sporting goods store, Shields. They've got over 30 retail locations across the United States and an even better online store that I'm going to have linked down below, and if you use my code, you're going to get free shipping. They've got everything you could imagine there. This is where I got this shirt. It's where I got this backpack. All of it was on sale. It was a great deal. Again, use my code down below. You're going to get free shipping. Back to the video. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot to mention, Muhammad Ali's original name was Cassius Clay. Yeah, he was actually named after this guy too. Anyways,
I will tell you later the story for those of you who may not know of why he changed his name. It was stupid. I personally find it stupid, but some people may disagree, but whatever. We'll get to that in time.
Back to the video. Bye-bye. If you don't know, at this point in time, there's basically two different camps you could fall into for being anti-slavery. You could be an abolitionist or an emancipationist. An emancipationist is somebody that wants to vote it out over time, over the next 5, 10, 20 years, versus an abolitionist, which is somebody that believes we need to end slavery right now, and they're willing to fight about it. And in the case of Cassius Clay, he was willing to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. You see, Cassius Clay wasn't just some nobody punk kid that went off to college and decided that he didn't like slavery. This was the son of one of the wealthiest slave owners in all of America. So for him to come out and voice anti-slavery views was a huge deal, and it pissed off a lot of people. So, being that this was the 1820s, what do you do when you're pissed off? You challenge somebody to a duel. So needless to say, the young Cassius Clay found himself partaking in an awful lot of duels, and he never, ever lost. So, obviously, he's pretty good at it, and what do you do when you find something you're pretty good at? You want to keep doing it, right? Right. So Cassius Clay starts challenging anyone and everyone to a duel that dares to oppose him. It became common knowledge in his community that Cassius Clay would be willing to fight the wind if it blew from the west and he wanted it to blow.
Okay, hold on. Listen, for those of you who may, like myself, fancy themselves some 19th century historical movies and or series, you would know of names like Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton. Like, those are the popular duelists that we would have heard of. But I have never heard of Cassius Clay. The duelist.
From the East. This man went on a dueling rampage, so much so that by the time he graduated college, he was considered to be the deadliest duelist in all of North America. This guy was putting slave owners in the dirt like he was Johnny Appleseed planting fucking trees. He became known as the deadliest abolitionist of all time. So he graduates from college, goes back home as a lawyer. Shortly after that, his father passes away and leaves everything to Cassius Clay. Cassius Clay immediately frees all of his father's slaves, costing himself $40,000, which is roughly $2 million today. And then he even gives some of the slaves land and money on top of it. Absolutely infuriating the pro-slavery people in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you do when half the local population hates your guts? You run for public office, and that's exactly what Cassius Clay did. He served in the Kentucky state legislature from 1835 to 1841, and then finally lost his re-election.
1841. That is, to my knowledge, the time where... what's his face? Hold on, I have it. Harrison... I was thinking of Harrison Ford. Mind Palace, trying to figure out the name of the freaking president at the time, because he was the one that ruled, that had the shortest term and died in office. William Harrison, that's the one. Yeah, he was the president at the time. Okay, I'm following.
He served in the Kentucky state legislature from 1835 to 1841, and then finally lost his re-election, to which the pro-slavery crowd breathed a huge sigh of relief because they finally defeated Cassius Clay, or so they thought. Clay immediately starts traveling the country, giving amazing anti-slavery speeches, winning over hearts and minds, and this absolutely infuriates the pro-slavery people because they don't know how to stop him. You can't...
It now makes perfect sense why that was the name that was given to Ali.
Because they don't know how to stop him. You can't legally stop a guy from talking to people that want to listen to him, and they can't legally kill Cassius Clay in a duel because he's the best duelist on earth. What do? You've got to illegally kill him. The problem with that is they can't find a hitman that's dumb enough to think that they can take out Cassius Clay, so they have to go to the one crevice of the planet where they can find somebody truly insane enough to think that they can do this job. And that man's name was Sam Brown, an assassin from New Orleans. 1834, Russell Cave, Kentucky. Cassius Clay's finishing up one of his world-famous speeches as he pulls out a burlap sack, reaches into the sack and pulls out a holy Bible and says, "For those of you that believe in the laws of God, I make to you this argument against slavery," sets the Bible on the table, reaches back...
Perhaps not the best book to choose to do that, but okay.
Back in the sack, pulls out a copy of the U.S. Constitution and says, "For those of you that believe in the laws of man, I present to you this argument against slavery," sets the Constitution down on the table, drops a burlap sack to the ground and says, "For those of you that believe in neither the laws of God or man, I make to you this argument against slavery," as he pulls out both of his pistols and sets them on the table, which
I saw the move and I was like, oh my god. He actually did that. What a badass. Now, I'll follow that man deep down in the trenches of hell.
I think we can all agree is gangster as fuck. And at this moment, Sam Brown comes up on stage and shoots Cassius Clay point blank in the chest. Luckily, Cassius Clay never leaves home without his trusted Bowie knife, which resides inside of a metal sheath. And that metal sheath would catch Sam Brown's bullet, saving Cassius Clay's life. At which point, Cassius Clay would draw his Bowie knife and charge Sam Brown. 6 of Sam Brown's friends in the audience tried to stop Cassius Clay. He would fight his way through all 6 of them, making his way to Sam Brown, promptly stabbing him in the chest, and then turning him into a Mr. Potato Head by cutting off his nose, lopping off his ear, and gouging out one of his eyes. Then...
Wait, hold on. I was joking when I said anime character. My dude is straight up an Assassin's Creed protagonist. I know I'm making those video game references again, but like AC truly took me to some of my favorite moments with historical characters. Whether or not the story were exaggerated doesn't matter to me. It was a lot of fun. But like this man straight up had a black belt in quick time events. What the hell? Gets shot, stands up, tackles 6 other dudes just to go and stab and cut off parts of his assailant. Listen, why is Ubisoft wasting their time making the end-of mythological character available through microtransactions while they could be telling the story of an actual badass? Come on! We need this dude. He is him.
The 6 men recovered and were able to peel Clay off of him. Not knowing what to do, knowing they couldn't stop Cassius Clay forever, they panicked, probably for fear that Cassius Clay was going to start shoving this guy's facial features up his ass next. They did the only thing they could come up with to get the two apart. They picked up their friend Sam Brown, threw him over a 7-foot-high stone wall. He fell down an embankment and into a creek bed to finally get Cassius Clay away from him. Somehow, Sam Brown survived, but not only was he lucky for that, he was also dumb as fuck because he then decided to take Cassius Clay to court because apparently after Cassius Clay stabbed him the first time, they were even on the whole assassination attempt thing, so Cassius Clay should go to prison for mayhem. So
these are the parts that really make me question US law sometimes. I really hope that this is not part of the court rulings anymore. That that this is a case that has been resolved, because that's usually how the US law works. Like, we judge you based on a case that has already happened, lest something has happened before. We can't really find an example, thus we don't know what to do. Like, there have been some of the stupidest cases, like a dude who was trying to shoot at something and then hit the neighbor's dog and therefore could not go to prison for that reason. Like, what the fuck? He tried to kill the dude. There's no even here.
Cassius Clay calls upon his older cousin, one of the best lawyers on the planet that had never lost in open court with over 40 years of experience, Henry Clay. Henry Clay goes into court and his entire defense for his cousin is, and I quote, "Your Honor, this is just standard behavior for a Kentuckian." And the judge is just like, "You're innocent. Free to go, that's it. Best court case ever." Literally walks in and just goes,
"I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought..."
Just adding a little question to that. When did Colonel Sanders invent his secret recipe? Can you imagine that court case and Cassius Clay just leaving and the dude comes out with a bucket of chicken? Yeah, he's a free man and also free chicken. Jesus Christ.
I thought this was America.
So after Cassius Clay was found innocent, Henry Clay decides that he's going to run for president and Cassius is going to help him campaign. Cassius is going to tour the country giving speeches saying, hey, you know, vote for my cousin. Here's the rule with that. Henry Clay told him he's only allowed to tour the northern states because he's actually legitimately concerned that if he sends Cassius to the south, he's going to shoot so many fucking slave owners in duels that it could be considered voter fraud. So Henry Clay ends up losing the presidential election and Cassius moves on to his next life adventure, which is becoming an author and writing anti-slavery news articles.
I'm sorry. Oh my god. This is one of the few cases where I would actually agree with voter fraud, because it's against a bunch of racists. And the worst kind, those who actually dehumanize straight up people and owns them as property. I cannot possibly send Cassius down there. He's going to shoot the competition to death.
So Henry Clay ends up losing the presidential election and Cassius moves on to his next life adventure, which is becoming an author and writing anti-slavery news articles. The problem with that was none of the newspapers were willing to publish him, so he says,
because
fuck you, I'll start my own newspaper, The True American. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, starting an anti-slavery newspaper in fucking Kentucky in 1845 was not very popular, and his business would receive death threats pretty much every day, some of which were written in blood. So Cassius Clay, in true Cassius Clay fashion, says, fuck it, I guess we're gonna fight about it. He then proceeds to up-armor his entire business and his printing office. He covers the entire front of the office in a large iron sheet. He installs several cannons down corridors, stocks the entire thing with loaded guns, and rigs it to explode. Here's the thing, he also doesn't expect his employees to fight to the death for him, so he installs an escape hatch and instructs them to escape if anything goes down, because he's going to fight the entire mob by himself. How's he going to do that? As soon as you walk in the only door to get into that printing office, you find yourself in a long, narrow corridor with iron on each side, just wide enough for a single man to get through.
Okay, hold on. Why has no one made a movie about this dude? When we have stuff like Better Call Saul and Nobody, freaking John Wick. What the hell? This is ripe for the taking. Even if you need to embellish certain truth and make it just a little bit more spicy. This is perfect. Why don't more people talk about this dude.
Cassius Clay is going to stand in that narrow corridor and fight the entire mob one man at a time. Literally the mentality of, if you have a problem, take a number, I'll kill you in a minute. This man recreated the entire battle of fucking Thermopylae with 300 Spartans, except he's going to do it all by himself. If you think fucking with John Wick's dog is a bad idea, the last thing you want to do is fuck with Cassius Clay's printing press, because this man is determined to defend the freedom of speech with the right to bear arms at any cost.
Nice.
Obviously, this escalates to Cassius Clay defeating an entire mob single-handedly. Right? Wrong.
No.
The mob, being full of, super brave pro-slavery men that know they're doing the right thing, do the honorable brave thing and wait till Cassius Clay is bedridden with typhoid fever so they know he isn't going to show up. They
bunch of pussies.
Show up to his business at night and burn the place to the ground because they're a bunch of fucking bitches. Now, Cassius Clay recovers from typhoid fever. He reestablishes a newspaper in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is an anti-slavery stronghold.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is being an anti-slavery stronghold, there's not going to be any conflict, and that's fucking boring. So Cassius Clay moves on to another life adventure, volunteering in the Mexican-American War. Well,
okay. You know what this guy is? He is the equivalent of a 19th century version of Mad Jack Churchill. If you've ever heard the name Mad Jack, he's not me, although I kind of wish he was. He's another war veteran. I don't know. Perhaps he has a video on him as well. I should check that out if he does. But the dude is yet another insane military dude who during the Second World War was like, I need more action. This is too peaceful for me. Like, anti-hero type dude. He just wanted to be on the front line and just kill people. But Cassius straight up channels that energy of like, I'm obviously a force of good, but I want problems.
Always.
While serving in the Mexican-American War, he would be a captain leading a group of Kentucky soldiers, and they would be captured pretty much immediately, and he would spend the duration of the entire war as a POW. While serving as a POW, some of the men under his command would escape, meaning that the Mexican military was then going to put the rest of his unit to death. Cassius Clay said, hey, don't kill my men, just kill me and my other fellow officers. We're the ones in charge. It's our fault that those men escaped. It's our responsibility. Please let the lower enlisted men go home. The Mexican military was so impressed by this that they decided to spare everyone, including Cassius Clay, and he would return home a war hero. Returning home from the war in 1848, he didn't really know what to do, so he starts giving his famous speeches again, this time leveraging his newfound title as a war hero. So obviously it doesn't take long for him to piss everybody off. He faces yet another assassination attempt. This time, 6 brothers from a wealthy slave-owning family show up, the Turner brothers. They show up with clubs and knives and guns, and they beat the living shit out of Cassius Clay with the clubs. They stabbed him multiple times. Cassius Clay whips out his trusted Bowie knife, starts opening up these brothers like they're fucking Amazon packages, making his way to the lead brother and stabbing him an excessive amount of times. We don't know how many times, but we do know it was a lifetime supply. Killing the lead brother, ending the assassination attempt, Cassius Clay would fall to the ground, nearly dead, and this would be the closest...
You can't kill the dude! Like, I understand that the man is a badass, but the sheer incompetence of, like, 6 individuals unable to take him down, like, why?
Anybody ever came to actually killing Cassius Clay. When he was asked about it later on in life, all he said was, I felt the utmost indignation, which translates to, I was fucking annoyed. This man almost died from an assassination attempt, and he has the same attitude towards it that I have towards fucking fruit flies, okay? This dude is so metal, he deserves his own spot on the periodic table of elements. Cassius Clay then makes a full recovery from his injuries, starts giving his speeches again. 1853, he donates a large chunk of his land to John Fee, who uses it to found Berea College, the first co-educational and multiracial college in the South ever. Fast forward to 1860, Cassius Clay is giving speeches in Illinois where he meets a politician by the name of Abraham Lincoln. And they get along great. Cassius Clay is then slotted to become Abraham Lincoln's vice president. However, he's a little bit
That was the thing.
Cassius Clay to be an actual big-name politician like that, so they give the job to Hannibal Hamlin, and Cassius Clay becomes the ambassador to Russia. 1861 rolls around, the Civil War breaks out, Cassius Clay is in Russia. Cassius Clay not only convinces Russia to not side with the Confederates, but he convinces Russia to tell Great Britain and France that if they so much as recognize the Confederacy, Russia will go to war with them.
The man has way too much influence. No one man should have so much power. It's over 9,000.
And this was a humongous step that nobody talks about in the winning of the Civil War. And it is 100% because of Cassius Clay. Fast forward to 1862, Abraham Lincoln wants to appoint Clay a major general in the Union Army. Cassius Clay publicly refuses the President of the United States, saying that he's not going to do it until the President signs the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing the slaves of the South. Cassius Clay is literally the man that bullied Abraham Lincoln into prematurely signing the Emancipation Proclamation before he wanted to. And
I'm sorry. This is just too funny. But also my brain is just dumb that despite all of the amazing cringe that freaking Rick and Morty has brought to our brains, it has left me with one of the quotes that I will never forget whenever I hear the word emancipation, the one spewed by Adolf Linkler. Prepare to be emancipated by
your own inferior gene.
Fucking love it. Oh my god. He bullied Lincoln to signing the Declaration. Oh, wow.
nobody talks about it. Fast forward again to 1865, the Union wins the Great American Scrimmage, the slaves are freed. Cassius Clay has achieved his lifelong goal at the age of 55, bringing an end to slavery in the United States of America. He then goes back to Russia again to serve as ambassador until 1869, and while he is there, he helps to broker the purchase of Alaska. This man is probably the most influential person in American history that you've never heard of. After returning home from Russia, Cassius Clay would live out the rest of his days in Whitehall until the age of 80 years old, where he would be declared clinically insane, in hindsight most likely due to a severe amount of PTSD, as well as potentially dementia. He didn't die from it, he lived on for quite a bit longer. He just picked up a new hobby of fucking with the local sheriff because he was crazy now. Over the course of the next decade, Clay and the sheriff would have multiple run-ins that would be concluded when the sheriff and 7 deputies were repelled from Whitehall when Clay utilized his home defense cannon that he had at the top of his stairwell. At that point, the local sheriff would inform the local judge he will not be returning to Whitehall to tangle with Cassius Clay anymore.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh, that is so sad, but at the same time freaking hilarious. I mean, it's like literally listening to the stories of your grand uncle and something like that, going about some war from time past that he participated in and all the struggles that he had to overcome, and you're just like, yeah, sure. You fought your way through a desert with a makeshift weapon that you built in a cave with a box of scraps for like 2 months to make it home to your wife and children. Yeah, of course I gotta believe that. Then said great uncle passes away, and then they read his obituary, and yeah, it turns out to all be true. The man might be insane and out of line, but what he did was true.
Unless the judge was willing to dispatch an entire company of the local militia to accommodate him. Then in 1900, 2 men would break into Whitehall, and Cassius Clay at the age of 89 would manage to kill both of them, one by gunshot and one, yet again, with his trusted Bowie knife. Then in 1903, at the age of 92, Cassius Clay would die of natural causes, or as they called it back then, general exhaustion, which is the most gangster way on the planet to go out. Literally just, I'm tired now, peace, and then he left.
I'm pretty tired. I think I'll go home now.
In conclusion, when it comes to famous historical household names, there's always another man or woman lurking behind the scenes in the shadows that's deemed too rough around the edges to be in the spotlight, yet they contribute just as much, if not more, to the movement. These men and women are willing to do horrific things for terrific reasons, and when it came to Abraham Lincoln and the abolition of slavery, that man's name was Cassius Marcellus Clay, the most gangster politician in American history. Thanks for watching the video. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang, out.
Wow, now that is a politician worth talking about. He went not just there to help abolish slavery, but continued for years on end to fight for his fellow man. Now, that is fucking insane. Which makes it, in my opinion, sort of disappointing to learn that, well, Muhammad Ali decided to change his name from Cassius Clay to the one that he adopted, that moniker, because of what I deem to be a very stupid reason. Now, the story as it goes through also some interviews that some of you who may be like Ali fans who've watched some of his old boxing stuff and interviews there will know of. Like, he took that moniker perhaps at a time due to peer pressure, because he deemed, for one, through mistakenly, thought that, yeah, Cassius Clay was a slave name.
Why don't you like to be called Clay anymore?
No, Clay was not my name, and Clay was a white man's name. It was a slave name. And I'm no longer Clay, I'm no longer a slave, so now I'm Muhammad Ali.
Obviously, it was the name of an abolitionist. I think through the influence of Elijah Muhammad at the time, wanted to take the name Muhammad Ali because it's the name of the prophet within Islam's, the son of the prophet's name, right? Which is fucking stupid, because for those of you who do not know this, one of the ugly similarities that the Bible and the Quran have with each other is that they both do endorse slavery. Yes, I used to be a Bible teacher, and one of the unfortunate things that I engaged in, which I find to be very wrong and somewhat manipulative, was that we needed to learn about other people's scripture, so to support our arguments and the way that we thought people of the word of God. Yeah, it was fucking stupid. But through doing that, you will encounter verses in the Quran that supports the acts of slavery, like for example how it was that, in this case, with Ali Muhammad, the son of the prophet, would be constantly on the receiving ends of slaves, black slaves, and also sexual slaves as like spoil of war. Yeah, that was a very common thing that they engaged in. You will encounter stories like where a black slave gets his hands on some, like, I think it was a piece of cloth that was not permitted for him to take just yet because the spoils of war had not yet been distributed to the people, which obviously meant that this person, the slave would go straight to hell. Whereas when Ali Muhammad found himself on the receiving end of a sexual slave, which was not for him to take, it was just a-okay. And ironically enough, you will find something similar in the book of Exodus that is literally prescribing newly freed slaves how to take slaves of themselves. Like, it's really weird.
Once we follow, believe, understand the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and come into knowledge of ourselves, then we want to be called after names of our people.
It is very weird, and something that I found myself in the past trying to justify that it was perhaps in hyperbole, it was parables that were being said, but no, it wasn't. But that's not the point of this story. I apologize if this end of the video is kind of getting into some territory that feels a little bit uncomfortable for some people. I'm sorry for that. That is not my intent. It is simply to inform, because when you get knowledge about certain things that you yourself thought were right but found out were wrong, you kind of need to share it, and perhaps if you have some opinion on it, please share in the comment section. My simple thought was just that while there obviously was a lot of hurt involved, I am certainly going to be splicing some footage for the interview that I'm thinking about here. I think it was an NBC interview with Muhammad Ali, where he even expresses the way that people will utilize the name Clay to like belittle him. But yeah, I fully understand that, and there was a lot going on at the time. But obviously, observing it from an outsider's perspective in these current times, I personally would have gone with the name of the literal badass that did the thing that you yourself were fighting for, instead of those who in the past have contributed in the thing that you were fighting against. But with that said though, thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, please do go and subscribe to the Fat Electrician. We shouldn't be calling him the Fat Electrician. He's not fat. And if you liked the video, don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe if you want to see some more. That said though, we should also have a wonderful day. See you guys in the next video. Bye.